Hello ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, I'm back again. It is time to put together another model kit. I'm finally starting on the Star Trek ships, and what better way to start than with the original TV show Enterprise. So let's crack this open and see how difficult it is. Making that saucer section does seem a little bit intimidating, but I won't know until I open it up and try. And just like the Star Wars ships, we have two metal sheets. We have our assembly flow chart, which this time it's just one page. So I noticed initially right off from looking at this a small change in the top here. This little picture has changed, and it just kind of explains there's fold seams, there's tabs, insertion tabs. And it's pretty much the same, just a different picture. This is slightly different though. It talks about bending 90 degrees and twisting the tabs, but it goes into more detail here. Pull and screw metal tab 90 degree to tighten. And that's something I've worked out on my own. I guess the instructions are evolving somewhat. And of course they show the two different sheets with numbers pointing to the different parts. I rather like how they're showing a sort of looks like a rod or a dowel rod here to help make these curves. It's a good suggestion. They didn't show any of that kind of stuff previously. In the first few Star Trek kit or Star Wars kits that I got, they didn't show dowel rods. Now they're starting to. Before we get started, here's some tools that I'll use to put this kit together. We have, of course, your standard tweezers, which I use the most. We have some dowel rods and a paintbrush, things to help shape the objects. At one point, you'll see that I use the end of a kitchen spoon because it is slightly rounded off and helps shape a part. I also use my forceps to hold on to one or two things, needle nose pliers, and a pocket knife. Now I suggest this one isn't very sharp and it's really larger than I needed. It was helpful to have something thin that I can get into small spaces and open up or pull apart the tabs so that I can then grab them with the tweezers. Finding one this big is not necessary, nor does it need to be particularly sharp. Instead of showing the entire assembly, which would be over 2 hours long, I'm just showing you a few clips with highlights of things I think would be helpful to know. One of the first things to note is with the pylons and stand, you need to bend the tabs that connect it to the secondary hull as tight as you can. Bend them right at the closest point. If you bend them too far out, getting it to fit will be very difficult. As is too often the case with these kits, a small part broke off, but I was still able to attach it. I spent time carefully bending over small pieces and parts that form the 3D shapes of these kits. Also, even though you do not see it, there's a lot of test fitting and slight bending of parts to get everything to fit together. Things rarely just fit the first time. After assembling the secondary hull, we then begin on the nacelles. There are a lot of
small parts to the nacelles, so it seems to take longer, but it felt like it was easier than the secondary hull. And then it's time to attach them to the secondary hull and to the pylons. After that, it's on to the saucer section. This part seemed to be the easiest to me. It also reminded me a little bit of the Millennium Falcon. After finishing the bottom half of the saucer section, I pushed up all the little outer pieces like it seemed to indicate in the instructions. When it came time to install the upper section, I found it hard to align all the tabs unless I pushed the pieces back down first. And we're all done. My first Star Trek Metal Earth kit. How did it go? Well, it was at least as difficult as I expected. And I've made several mistakes. One of the first mistakes that I made was in rounding off this body here. I originally thought, and this is where I had started, I originally thought this textured part was supposed to be on the outside. That's actually supposed to be on the inside. So I curved it around the wrong way. That was problem number one. And really, by the time I realized I had made that mistake, I had already attached these pieces, and it would have been pretty well impossible to try and undo and redo that. So I got a second kit, which is good because I made some other mistakes. One of the nacelles, as I was getting around to doing it, I put this part on backwards by mistake, and if you fold it up, that textured part was supposed to face out, and that was a little mistake that I made. So I've got some spare parts laying around. I had one piece broke as I was trying to get it out, so I unfortunately had a spare to replace it with. But in the end, if you look at the back of the nacelles, they're not quite even like you would expect. And I've tried twisting it as much as I can. Really the only thing I can do is fold it closer, and they're a little too close as it is. I don't know if maybe I accidentally put these on the wrong side. It's kind of hard to say. It's too late to undo it and redo it. But these are some mistakes I made, so you don't have to. I also, again, put the stand on backwards. The camera memory filled up just as I was finishing the model, so you don't really get to see the last little bit of putting the stand on, which there's really not much to see there. And I realized I had done it pretty early on, but again it was too late, and I wasn't going to trash another ship and start again. So I'm learning, and I'm passing this on. I've noticed that some of the other videos that I've done, I've gotten a few compliments or thank yous, and that's great. Just like some of the other ships that I've made, I went online looking for videos about this, and the only thing I found about this particular kit for Metal Earth was a couple of basically promo videos where it just shows it completed kit spinning around. So nothing helpful. So if you're looking to get one of these and build one of these, it is challenging. It can be done. As I have said in so many other videos, pay attention. Don't put these things together backwards. Make sure, and this body was tricky. It was tricky because it's got windows on, let me put that down. It looks like it has the windows both on the outside and on the inside. And I'm so used to the more textured area being outside, but that's not the case. And what finally tipped me off is this bottom piece here. The textured part is inside where that's plain. So I don't know why they put a texture on both sides. I don't know why they put windows on both sides. It just makes it confusing. And some of the things it says the textured side goes this way or that way. This one, it really didn't. So that's a really easy mistake to make. Another tip that I can give you is when putting this top saucer section on, it was a bit challenging, and you might not want to fold these bottom pieces all the way up until you are putting the top on, because that was rather challenging to do. And this isn't perfect. It's not perfect at all. I could stand to probably do this 2 or 3 more times before I get it looking decent. But I don't expect it to be perfect. I gave it a shot. It was fun. It was worth the try. I enjoyed it. I'll put this up on the shelf with many other ships. And stay tuned. I have more Star Trek ships to do. It's just a matter of finding the time. This probably took 2 to 3 hours to do. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Do what I can to answer your questions and help you out. Thank you for watching, and keep on keeping on.